Hey, you! I'm your nutrition coach. My name is Jackie Poole. Welcome to Happiness is a Healthier Habit. Let's get today's episode started. Hello, friend. Welcome back to Happiness is a Healthier Habit. Again, my name is Jackie Pools, and today's episode is going to challenge the way you think about motivation, discipline. Maybe you're like forcing yourself to be, sticking to it because, what if I told you it's really not about pushing harder? It's about becoming that person, right? Becoming that new you, becoming her, that person that you want to be. And so I kind of wanted to touch base on this episode. I named it Wellness Isn't Willpower. It's really the identity work that you do with self-belief, whether it's spiritual, whether it's nutritional, whether it's mental. And today I really want to share both personal stories, and you really talk about one of my clients' transformation that proves when your habits really match your personality traits, when they match your belief, you are going to become consistent. Consistency becomes natural to you. So I really want to dive in and talk about that. But the other day, I was listening to this podcast that my husband had sent me about endurance and how endurance works and the different types of endurances, right? You have muscular endurance, you have HIIT endurance, you have, anaerobic, aerobic, like so much good nuggets that I got, especially because I don't know if you know me or follow me, but I am just kind of, I go through phases of in and out trainings of running. And so modalities of it, sometimes I go for long runs, sometimes I go for sprints. And so getting off topic here, but in the podcast, it really talks about willpower. And he really made an impact when he said that willpower isn't just you deciding, that it's going to work. It's really neurons and the way energy is used. And so willpower is energy that is expendable. And so that really intrigued me. And so here's the thing. Willpower works until it doesn't, right? Most people know what to do. They have goals. They have sets of like, I'm gonna, start on Monday, and you have really good intentions, and maybe you prepped your meals, you did really good that weekend, you are working out, but usually by like Thursday or even Friday, you feel like you're craving some comfort, right? You start hitting the snooze. You tell yourself, well, I'll just start again on Monday. And so here's why. Because willpower, again, is not something that should be a reliable strategy, right? Like you just saying, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to force myself to do it. The way, I forgot his name. I think it was like Humerman or something. He's very big in the industry of wellness, I guess. But the way he explained it, willpower is like electricity, right? So literally, willpower is a biological function event, is a surge of electrical activity in your brain that is responsible for self-control, the decisions that you make, managing those urges or those impulses. So when you think of it like this, every time you make a decision, every time you resist a craving, or you try to stay focused. You are pulling from that power grid, right? You are using electricity. And just like electricity, willpower is limited, right? The more you use it, the faster it burns. And so that's why you can call it kind of flawless. You know, you can have a flawless morning. You can get your workout done. You can get your water done. You can, eat your breakfast. You can, do all the things and then feel like a completely different person by the end of the day. And so that's your brain using all of the electricity throughout the day. And so by the end of the night, your charge is really low, right? So some people are like, they do really good. You've seen those memes. They're like, I do so good, morning and lunch. And then by the evening, we kind of just default to those old habits, right? Like I ate a whole bag of Oreos, or I ate the whole ice cream, or, I ate a whole bag of Doritos. Like that, when I was trying to figure this out and put this together, I was like, that makes total sense. It requires less energy for you to default to those things because you're so used to doing those things, if those are habits that you're used to doing, right? And so it doesn't take much effort for you. It doesn't take a lot of energy for you to make those decisions, right? As opposed to AKA willpower. So here's a myth, right? If I could just have more willpower, I'll finally be consistent, right? But the truth is, it's actually the opposite, right? The problem isn't the lack of willpower. It's like an over-reliance on it. So instead of constantly trying to power through your day, flickering that internal current, like using all of this energy for trying not to do certain things, I want you to build habits from a different source, right? From your identity, from who you say you are becoming, this new person, right? And so how do we do that? How do we create this new identity? So first of all, you really start fueling that identity when you start believing, right? You are that someone who moves her body. You are that someone who fuels herself well and keeps promises to herself, not to others or not to impress anybody else, but yourself. And so when you start working on that internal belief, whether it's through affirmations, gratitude, practices that you enjoy doing, building those good habits, you don't need much electricity when you start establishing those beliefs. Because remember, and I'm very big on this, when we establish those beliefs, we start taking action. And when we start taking action, we start seeing results. And then those results increase our belief. And then it's a cycle, right? That belief leads to more action, leads to more results, leads to more belief, and so on and so on. And so that is the key factor here, right? Creating this identity that you believe, not that anybody else told you, or that you need to, or that, oh, I need to become this because this is what's right, or that's what's normal. Like, you need to focus on you. And so I want to explore that, because becoming her, or, that version of who you, want to be, who just lives well, that's where things really get sustainable. That's where things can really make an impact and be a lifetime of being the person that you want to be, right? And again, it's all about figuring that thing that you want to do and becoming that person. So let's dive in a little deeper, right? Let's do some identity drives actions. And so one of my favorite books and authors is James Clear, right? And I pulled up some quotes today that he talks about that really, I think, align well with what we're talking about today. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become, right? And Mel Robbins, with Let Them, I'm kind of torn between this, right? I keep hearing it like, oh, it's fake if you act like the person you want to be, but it's not really acting like I am this person, right? I am doing who I'm doing what who I want to be, who I'm becoming, who I am, right? So it's technically not acting, is taking action. So you are becoming that person that you want to be. And so I want to take it a step further, especially, with some of my clients. We kind of reverse this identity thing, right? We stop focusing on how can I stay motivated to eat clean? How can I, oh, I fell off track. How do I not do that, right? We really need to stop focusing on how do I stay motivated to take the actions. We need to ask, what would that woman, what would she do to feel more powerful in her body today, right? To feel more powerful that day. Sometimes we're like, we have the goals. I love setting goals. I love setting, when I work together with a client, is usually for 90 days, 12 weeks. And it's good to see where we go from week 1 to week 12, and we set weekly goals, monthly goals, and see where we want to be. But at the same time, we have to be present and in the moment and take it day by day. Because if we're constantly thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to get to that, then we're constantly thinking about the future. And one way not to do that is to really focus on how we are feeling in that present day, right? Am I drinking my water? Or ask, maybe in third person, like, would she meal prep even when it's not fun? Would she still get up in the morning because, her morning routine really fuels her? It's not about, oh, I have to, or I'm like white knuckling it through, right? It's about making those decisions for you. I was recently talking to a friend, and she had a rough week last week. She was, up and out of routine, doing, a lot of things with her practice, church, and just out of sync. And so she was still waking up in the mornings, but she was feeling rough. She missed a couple workouts. She changed some days. So it was a little, unexpected week with some of the events that she had. And so this week, she had the opportunity, husband asked, hey, let's watch a movie, let's stay up. And she decided to say, hey, I'm going to bed. Like, I need to get up early. I want to feel fresh. I want to get my workout in. And that's setting boundaries, right? That's, being able to, instead of like, oh, I'm missing time with my husband, like, prioritizing yourself as far as like saying, hey, I need to put myself first right now. I need to make sure I get what I need to get done, especially because of the week I had prior. And this week I want it to be different. But is making that decision, defaulting, because that is who she is now, right? That is the person that she is becoming. And so that is something to say that you can be proud of, right? Making yourself a priority and deciding that, hey, I'm going to do this for me, and, others may not like it, but I need this, right? And so one of my clients that I'm about to finish, working with her, used to say, like, she knew what to do, she knew what workouts to do, but never followed through, never stuck through. She used to do, Camp Gladiator. She did that for 3 years. She lost the weight, but it took forever, and gained it all back as soon as she stopped, right? And so she kept not really trying to diet, didn't really know where to start dieting, but she did keep starting over and doing her exercises and runs, and she just kept starting over, right? Nothing stuck. But in this time that we've worked together, I've seen a very big shift. She's told me, like, I've realized I'm treating my habits more like, oh, I have to do this, more like a punishment for being out of shape, right? Instead of seeing them as proof that I'm becoming the woman that I want to be, or the mom that I want to be. So when we have this happening, we need to rewire the stories that we keep telling ourselves, right? Because just stories, sometimes we don't know how to differentiate the facts between the stories that we keep telling ourselves, right? Sometimes we keep telling ourselves, no, I can't, no, this is hard, I can't, and that's the belief. That's the belief that we have, is that story that we keep telling ourselves, right? And so, but what are the facts? The facts are your body's able to move, you're able to make those changes, where sometimes we're so blinded. I forget what those things from the horses are called, but they literally just, you can only see what's in front of you and nothing else. And so when we learn to rewire those stories, those beliefs, they have a whole different meaning and a whole different outlook on what we end up thinking of when we kind of make those switches, right? So we are now in week 15, and she's been so consistent with all the habits that we've worked through the entire time that we've been working together. There's no need for pep talks. Like, she does that on her own. She is getting her, goals on check. She is doing everything that she needs to do with less and less accountability from me. And that is my goal for my clients, right? I want them to be able to have a sustainable lifestyle without needing me for every single thing. And so that's what we work through the entire 12 weeks, because I know when I let you go, when I let you fly, you have all the resources, all the things where if something happens, you know how to get back up, and you're not going to let go the reins and revert back to the person that you used to be, right? And I am so sure of that. And so again, now we're not dependent on, checking off the boxes or making sure we're checking off our to-do list, right? It just comes natural to you, to her, because this is who she is now. This is who she's identified as this new person. And it's not hard. She enjoys it. She loves doing it. This is who she is. And so it may look completely different to you, your routines, your goals, your practices, something that we really work on towards the end of these weeks is really finding our personality traits and figuring out what works for us. And we recently did that. And so those things are very helpful to use to empower the actions that we are taking. So I hope you're still with me. I want to take make this some actionable steps for you. So let's just focus on maybe a habit that you're struggling with, right? Ask yourself, who is the version of me that finds this habit easy, right? Whatever you're trying to do. And then we're going to ask who, and then we're going to ask what, right? What does she believe about herself? This is very important because, as I stated earlier, belief is everything. And so sometimes you might need to borrow belief from somebody else, right? Like, they believe in me. I don't want to let them down. So I'm going to stick to it for a moment, right? You can borrow belief from others, and that's okay. And that's a great way to initiate a spark of motivation to continue going. But ultimately, you want to make sure that you start believing in yourself. And lastly, we're going to ask how. How can I take action today that aligns with her? And again, it's not about forcing yourself to do things that are hard, that you feel like, I have to get this done. And sometimes I talk about my runs that way, like, I have to. But I end up doing it, right? Because I believe that aligns with me internally. And so those things get done, I don't miss it. I don't skip it unless I'm sick or I'm like on my bed. I don't miss them because that I'm becoming that version of who you see. And so those hard things are just part of, my life, and they should become part of her normal life, right? So I do want you to think about those questions. So let me just kind of repeat them real quick. Number 1, who is the version of me that finds this habit easy? What does she believe about herself? And how can I take action today that aligns with her? So if you need to take a pause, write these down, you may. Right here is a great place to start to save them for later. And so let's go ahead and anchor this, take this, end this with a positive mindset. I want to end this with kind of like an affirmation, right? So I want you to say this out loud with me. I kind of wrote it down here. So the affirmation is, I don't need more willpower. I need to step into the identity of the woman I already know I am becoming. Again, I don't need more willpower. I need to step into the identity of the woman I already know I am becoming. So let that be your focus this week. Not perfection, just embody that person that you want to be. And so if this episode hit home for you, message me on Instagram. It is on the show notes below. Who are you becoming? And I always extend the offer if you're ready for real transformation, not a quick fix. Let's chat, okay? Let's schedule a consult. Let's talk for a few minutes. I want to know where you are, where you want to go, and really get to know you and see how I can help you. I also want to say I am starting in-person training sessions, and those will be Katie/Houston. They will be open and live for, I believe, June 22nd. I have 3 different packages. If you're interested in knowing more about what they consist of, or you're ready to sign up, I can definitely make exceptions for you and open up the window for that. I'm excited to do that. Now, I do want to say, if you sign up for the nutrition coaching program, those in-person sessions will be included for free. And so I love to give anything and everything to help my clients improve. And so that's why I'm currently taking those certifications, learning more about the body and how to make you successful. Thank you for being here. Talk to you soon. And please remember, you don't need more motivation, right? You need a mirror that reflects who you really want to be and, increase that belief. There's this exercise that I love to give my clients, and it's literally looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I love myself, or I love you. And so I've learned that that can be pretty hard for some to do, but it's something that is worth starting to build that belief in yourself by loving yourself first, right? So if you want to try it, or if you're curious about the exercise, DM me too. I can send you a PDF on how to do it. But I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here, and we'll chat with you next time.